I am Virginia Picchetti, Professor of Italian in the Department of World Languages and Cultures. My colleague Marzia Caporale and I would like to welcome you to this evening's presentation, Black Italians and Digital Culture in Contemporary Italy. We would also like to welcome Director Fred Kuwornu and thank him for once again joining us, this time via Zoom from his native Italy. This evening's event was funded by a grant from the university's Office of Equity and Diversity, which we thank for its support and recognition. With this event, we endeavor to contribute to the very important and essential dialogue on social justice, rights, visibility, and the way people harness possibilities to make their voices heard. Again, welcome and thank you for joining us for this exciting and edifying presentation of Fred Kuwornu's timely multimedia event. Dr. Caporale will now provide you with an introduction of Mr. Kuwornu and his work.
Thanks everybody for being here, and I'm just going to say a few words about our guest, although his work is certainly more extensive. I'll just give you sort of the highlights. Fred is a filmmaker, activist, producer, educator. He was born and raised in Italy. He now works out of Brooklyn for the most part, but like Dr. Picchetti said, he's currently working from Italy. He holds a bachelor's degree in political science and mass media from the University of Bologna. His career started in Rome as a TV show writer for Rai Public Television and for other networks. In 2008, he started a film career as a production assistant on the set of the film Miracle at Sant'Anna, directed by Spike Lee. It's based on the Nazi massacre in Sant'Anna of Stazzema in Italy. After that experience, he made his own documentary, Inside Buffalo, in 2010 about the Afro-American soldiers who helped liberate Italy from the Nazis. The film received critical acclaim and later won the award for Best Documentary at the Black International Cinema Berlin Festival. It was also highly praised by former presidents Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and Italy's Giorgio Napolitano. In 2012, he released the film 18 You Soli, which we screened at the University of Scranton, though that was probably before your time. The film examines multiculturalism in Italy and also looks at the question of citizenship for the 1 million children of immigrants born and raised in Italy who are not yet Italian citizens. In 2016, he released Blaxploitation, 100 Years of Black in Italian Cinema on African descent actors in Italian cinema, which we also had the pleasure of hosting here at the University of Scranton. He's now holding lectures and screenings of his films around the world and the United States. And tonight we welcome him again to the University of Scranton, and I'm going to hand it over to him. Thank you, Fred.
Hey, thank you for this wonderful introduction. I'm very glad and honored to be with you virtually. And also remember the last time when we showed the documentary 18 You Soli, and this was my last visit in Scranton. Hopefully when the COVID emergency will end, we will restore also real events. I will come back. The idea to have this talk with you tonight and also this conversation about Black Italians in digital culture in contemporary Italy is also because I would like to bring to the attention the fact that in Italy, like many other European countries, there is a Black diaspora and the presence of African descent in the country. There is also a scene inside the culture, inside the society that not very often is shown in Italy, but also abroad Italy. So for this reason, especially this year, in which there are much more opportunity to bring in the curricula some part of diversity of contemporary Italy, and particularly during the celebration of Black History Month, with Scranton University, we decided to have this conversation, and I decided also to use a lot of materials to bring this conversation, a multimedia talk, a multimedia lecture. Of course, you will be free to ask questions. Also, during the talk, you can write in the chat some questions if you want, and then at the end of the talk, we can have a conversation together. So I'm gonna start to share some things from my screen, and in particular, as I mentioned before, some of the video clip. And I can tell you much more during the talk. But first of all, I start with my bio, so why I'm doing this job, and also something about my background. My dad came to Italy from Ghana, a small village of West Africa, in 1965. I was born and raised in the early 70s in a north city called Bologna. And talking about my background and childhood, and talking also about the connection with my work, I didn't felt a lot represented by Italian media and sometimes Italian society, because there were a few people that looked like me, and I felt to be very often the only one in the room when I was in the high school, when I was of course, the elementary school, like in this picture, but also at the early stage of my career in many professional environments. And for this reason, one of the task of my work is to tell your own story before the other tell it for you. And in particular, there is the story of this generation. For this reason, we call the Black Italians in digital culture in contemporary Italy, because we are talking about a generation that basically start to be really relevant at the end of the 90s. But even this generation start to be relevant at the end of the 90s. I'm referring to the generation of Black Italian youth. African descent were always present in the territory of Italy since the Roman Empire. So in a project that I'm launching, that is a platform called the blackitalia.info, I will produce, and I'm producing a lot of episodes of different projects. One is called the Black It, and I will show you tonight some of this episode. And Black It is focused on telling the story of contemporary Afro-Italians. The other project is an historical project in which in every episode we will tell some stories about African Italian who were historically present since the Roman Empire. But in this clip that I want to show you, I simply try to create a sort of small briefing about the project. actually, I skip the beginning of the clip in which there was the story of one of the head of state that was mixed race, Alexander de' Medici, the Duke of Florence. But there were a lot of other examples, and much more are, of course, inside the Roman Empire experience, because this was for the proximity, of course, of the territory of Italy with North Africa. The island of Sicily is really far, few miles from the coast of North Africa. And during the Roman Empire, of course, there were a lot of connection with ancient Egypt, like the kingdom of ancient Egypt, but also the kingdom of Aksum, that was the current kingdom of Ethiopia. So this is just to create a sort of introduction to say that the presence was not only a presence that we can trace in the last 30 or 40 years, or in the 60s when my father came, but was a presence that was historical, like since centuries of years. Even this young generation is called Generation Balotelli, because basically Mario Balotelli, who is a famous soccer player, is a striker, he joined also the national team. Balotelli was born in the 90s, in the early 90s. And so the early 90s basically in Italy represent a baby boom explosion of African descent, born by their parents who came as an immigrant in the mid 80s. And we are talking about a generation born by immigrant parents who came also from West Coast Africa, so a lot of people from Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, Ivory Coast, Congo, and of course people who came from different parts of Africa. But this is a generation that is very visible. So actually right now, if you go in elementary school in Italy, you will see that at least every 10 kids, 3 or 4 have a foreigner background, and maybe 2 of them an African roots background. So the explosion was in the 90s. The effect of this explosion is right now in the society, in the culture of the society, because those kids became a young adult. Now they are 20 years, 25 years old or more. And with the explosion of the social media, they really played an important role in the definition of the Afro-Italian community.
Maybe sometimes it's frustration. Frustration meaning there's no work, there's no job. So whenever I see you coming, of course you coming in my country to work, or you coming, the little food that I have, you coming for it. So definitely I'm gonna hate you. So that is part of racism, and that's part of it.
I felt a little bit alone when I was home, and I always said that if it happened in the stadium, I just do like if nobody say nothing and I don't care. But this time, I think I changed my mind a little bit, and if it's gonna happen one more time, I'm gonna leave the pitch.
Il fenomeno Balotelli è mio nipote che accende la televisione, vede Balotelli e tifa Italia perché c'è Balotelli. Quello è il fenomeno Balotelli. È mio nipote che si fa ancora la cresta perché si ricorda di Balotelli. Io quando ero piccolino accendevo la televisione e non avevo nessun tipo di riferimento. Ricordo che nella finale del 99-2000 Italia-Francia, io tifavo Francia perché mi rappresentavano molto di più. Mi sentivo più rappresentato, ricordo che ero lì che tifavo Francia, ero l'unico che stava esultando. Uguale nel 2006. Quando è arrivato Balotelli, mio padre, che non aveva mai visto una partita d'Italia, si è guardato tutto il mondo, tutto l'europeo. Perché se Sturridge, attaccante dell'Inghilterra, sbaglia gol, gli si dice sei un coglione. Se Balotelli, nazionale italiana, sbaglia gol, gli si dice non sei italiano.
This is an introduction, of course, to talk about some of the issues that are connected to this generation, and also introduce an artist, and I will show you his story later on. This is also some term, some word, because there is a huge debate inside also the Black community, which is the term, how they refer themselves. So when I was a kid, for example, I remember that in Italy it was really popular to use the word Italo-Africano. Now, with the merging of the generation Balotelli, there are basically two terms that are used a lot. One is Afro-Italian, the other is Black Italian. Sometimes Black Italian is used in Italian language, so Italiano Nero. And of course, our definition, not because this generation want to separate by the other, because of course they feel to be, first of all, Italian, but because inside the society, the other, a part of the society, see them different. So it's a way just to create a sense of identification in the community, and also is a sense also to share experience with people who have the same sometimes background, or people who look like you or have some same experience. So of course, this is the reason why we have and we use this term. Inside this generation, of course, social media are playing an important role, as I said before, for social change. When I say social change, of course, culture, it's something that is continuously movement. And this moment, new media are playing a central role for many reasons. Also for the definition of the Italian culture, because are the arena in which a lot of people, and particularly a lot of young Italians, can share their experience. And in a country in which sometimes the mainstream media don't allow you to be a part or to be included, of course, the new media are a terrific resources to create this space. In particular, Black Italian women creating in this moment are creating a great sense of community identity, and there are different experiences from women who are entrepreneurs, bloggers, students, writers. They founded a lot of interesting blog, and tonight also with my series Black Italiano and Black It, I interview some of them. For example, Aida Ichabodian. I think she was one of the first Black girl who founded in the past an important blog. The first one was Afrital Girl, and then she founded the other. The most recent blog, very important, is called the Nibua World. This is a great community blog, and this is some part of her story.
Reggio a me piace, l'ho vista molto più accogliente, molto più aperta con lo straniero, tra virgolette. Mi piace confrontarmi con chi è differente, scoprire chi è differente da me. La nascita di tutti questi blog sicuramente sono positivi per tutte quelle ragazze che come me comunque avrebbero avuto bisogno di trovare comunque degli esempi positivi, esempi di persone che ti dicano guarda che tu così con la pelle nera sei già bella, tu col capello afro stai benissimo così, non c'è bisogno di lisciarti, non c'è bisogno di sbiancarti la pelle per assomigliare a qualcun altro che poi non sei te. Il tema della diversità che oggi appunto non è solo legato al colore della pelle, ma proprio un concetto molto più ampio, riguarda appunto il background sociale di una persona, riguarda l'orientamento religioso, riguarda il genere, comunque disabilità, la diversità di pensiero. I nuovi media sono una grande risorsa se si sanno come utilizzarle. Nel progetto che sto portando avanti insieme ad altri ragazzi, appunto Diversity Hub, noi stiamo cercando di valorizzare proprio a 360 gradi il tema della diversità. I commenti più belli che ho ricevuto sono quelli che dicevano come affrontavo appunto il tema della diversità in modo molto semplice, cercando appunto di guardare la parte positiva delle cose. Abbiamo avuto veramente l'occasione di raccontarci per quello che siamo, senza intermediari, comunque senza palcoscenici già precostituiti. La multiculturalità comunque diciamo che è sempre fatto parte della mia vita fin da piccola, con l'associazione Roots Evolution, che appunto opera nella tematica della diversità. Il nostro obiettivo è un po' quello di partire dalle radici per evolversi, ma evolversi comunque mantenendo le radici, quindi abbiamo questo duplice rapporto tra passato e futuro, tra innovazione ed evoluzione, quindi dar voce alle nuove generazioni di italiani, di raccontarsi per quello che sono senza dover passare per filtri. E all'interno di questa Afro Beauty Fashion Expo abbiamo raccolto un po' quelle che sono le figure più influenti in questo momento sul discorso beauty, sul discorso fashion. Abbiamo contattato blogger, imprenditrici come Evelyn di Nep Italia, hairstylist.
And this is one of the important bloggers, but there are other bloggers who found a different way to tell her story. And Aisha mentioned, for example, Evelyn. Evelyn Afavua is a Ghanaian Italian blogger, but also entrepreneur. And she founded an important blog called Nappi Italian. This is her story.
Quindi avevo da una parte il mio lato africano, che ho sempre cercato di nascondere e reprimere, il mio lato italiano, che ho sempre accettato, di cui sono sempre andata fiera. Nel momento in cui mi sono dovuta, diciamo, allontanare dal piccolo paesino Brianzolo dove sono cresciuta, lì ho iniziato a notare che non ero uguale a tutti gli altri. Milano ogni giorno mi ricordava che tu, Evelyn, non sei italiana, tu, Evelyn, sei nera. Chi era quella persona che gli altri vedevano? Chi era quella ragazza che tutti incontravano sulla metropolitana, che incontravano in ufficio, che incontravano in università, ma che io stessa non riuscivo a vedere, perché non volevo vederla, perché era più facile vedere la parte italiana che era accettata, che vedere la parte africana che la società non vuole vedere e che io stessa non volevo vedere. Chi era Evelyn? Era semplicemente una ragazza afro-italiana, interiormente, ma esteriormente ho detto, ma i miei capelli devono continuare a nascondersi, ad essere stirati, o forse i miei capelli non li ho neanche mai visti.
Capii che non sarebbe mai esistita una Evelyn italiana al 100%, ma neanche una Evelyn ghanese al 100%. Evelyn era un mix di culture, un mix di due paesi, un mix tra Italia e Ghana. Accettai finalmente questa duplice identità, la bellezza di queste sfumature. Quindi ho deciso di smettere con le stirature chimiche e ho deciso di far crescere i miei capelli naturalmente e ho scoperto dei riccissimi afro, dei capelli bellissimi. Insomma, la prima cosa che ho fatto è stata andare su internet e cercare informazioni su come gestire questi capelli, questi nuovi capelli, perché per me erano qualcosa di veramente nuovo. E ahimè tutte le informazioni che trovai erano in tutte le lingue tranne che in italiano, in francese, in inglese, in americano, ma in italiano non c'era nulla. Nella lingua in cui io parlavo quotidianamente, tutti i giorni, non c'era assolutamente nulla. E mi chiesi, sono forse l'eccezione? Sono l'unica ragazza che in tutta Italia ha deciso di sfoggiare i propri capelli? Insomma, decisi di fare qualcosa. Napi perché è un termine afroamericano che descrive due parole, naturally and happy, che in italiano vuol dire felicemente al naturale, perché io con orgoglio sfoggio questi capelli. E girls perché all'inizio non pensavo che questo mondo potesse coinvolgere anche i ragazzi, ad oggi vi dico che è così. Insomma, questa pagina ha iniziato ad aumentare in maniera molto velocemente, smentendo il mio pensiero iniziale di essere un'eccezione. Ma Napitalia non parla solamente di capelli, parla anche della storia dei capelli afro, perché si è partiti dai capelli naturali, si è passati allo stiraggio e adesso c'è questo movimento che sta tornando indietro al naturale. Ero una studentessa, una receptionist e mai avrei pensato di diventare una blogger, di diventare un'imprenditrice ad oggi, di diventare una motivatrice, di avere persone che mi seguono e mi vedono magari come un esempio, accettarsi per quello che si è, per come si è, di non inseguire stereotipi, di non inseguire figure che magari i media ci mandano, ma di essere noi stessi, nella nostra interezza, nella nostra pienezza.
And this is a great, of course, suggest, especially when you don't need to follow role models created by the mainstream media because you are not a part of the mainstream media. So for this reason, it was also important for them trying to find a counter narrative and a counter way to create a positive role model also for the Black Italian community. And I want to share with you also the interview and the episode with two other bloggers, just to end this first part of the talk that is much more dedicated to the Black young Italian girl.
Tipo anche questa frase, immigrato di seconda generazione. Ma che vuol dire?
Credo che tu mi seguissi, che tu fossi iscritta al mio canale, una volta hai commentato un video e poi da lì
parlando poi ho capito che
ero polentona.
Eri polentona, cavolo.
Da lì abbiamo iniziato a commentare nei reciproci video, poi credo che ci siamo scambiati i numeri del DNA, tipo
sì, ci siamo scambiati i numeri, proprio un'amicizia via web.
So this is how I usually like to wear my hair, in a side ponytail.
Ci siamo entrambe rese conto di avere questa frustrazione in comune di essere italiane ma di non essere considerate italiane, sì, e di non vederci rappresentati in nessun modo, e quindi abbiamo deciso insieme di colmare questo vuoto. L'africano non è quello che è mostrato nei TG o comunque nelle varie trasmissioni. Le nostre telefonate di tipo 2 ore. Una volta ho detto, cavoli, ma perché non fondiamo una piattaforma, un blog, sì, dove finalmente possiamo iniziare a costruire la realtà che abbiamo sempre voluto vedere crescendo.
La cosa bella di Africa Dance secondo me è che non parliamo soltanto
delle discriminazioni, non cadiamo nel vittimismo.
Ma mostriamo anche per dire che outfit potresti avere, che make-up potresti indossare, i capelli, via con il natural hair, ma non solo.
Delle coppie miste che mi lascia il fondotinta.
Video sulle coppie miste è piaciuto tantissimo, quindi questi sono i video che sono piaciuti di più sulle coppie miste, perché comunque solitamente si vedono coppie miste in Italia molto adulte, quindi persone che sono sposate, che hanno già figli, e dove la parte di origine straniera è effettivamente immigrata. Invece noi abbiamo mostrato coppie miste italiane e giovanissimi, quindi dai 19 ai 25 anni, non sposati, senza figli, ragazzi che sono nati e cresciuti qua e hanno origine straniera, e quindi abbiamo mostrato come in realtà non ci siano problemi, differenze, barriere tra persone di seconda generazione e gli italiani. La nostra pagina Facebook ha utenti che vivono anche al di fuori dell'Italia, perché vediamo che c'è gente che ci commenta in portoghese, che viene dal Brasile.
Quando ero piccola detestavo i miei capelli, era come se fossi etichettata come la diversa, come la nera, come quella con i capelli afro.
Ho frequentato l'università, scienze politiche, scienze internazionali e istituzioni europee, percorso diciamo classico. Nasci, cresci, vai a scuola, fai l'università, trovi il lavoro e...
Ho fatto all'Università Biotecnologie, triennale a Bologna e specialistica a Roma. Dopodiché mi sono trasferita qui a Milano e ho conseguito un dottorato in patologia.
Che conviene ai media italiani mantenere un'ideologia negativa delle persone, secondo me, di origine africana.
Non si parla mai di noi o appunto delle seconde generazioni. Quando si cerca di parlare, portare insomma alla luce anche le cose positive in qualche modo, è sempre riguarda sempre appunto l'immigrato appena arrivato, il clandestino, il profugo.
O che ha fatto un'azione positiva nei confronti di un italiano.
Sì, non lo so,
quindi
ha
l'eroe,
salvato la vecchietta dal ladro.
La realtà è già cambiata, però sono le istituzioni, sono i media, è al vertice che
non viene mostrata.
non c'è questa voglia di mostrare la nuova faccia dell'Italia.
And this is another important blog called Afro-Italian Souls. And now I want to tell something more about other kind of situations that are really interesting. And now we are talking about writing and music. And in particular, we are talking about Antonio Di Chele Di Stefano. He's a writer, producer, and entrepreneur. I met Antonio in 2014 virtually on Facebook. And in 2015, he started to share a lot of posts about a book that he was self-publishing. The title of the book was Fuori piove, dentro pure passo a prenderti. And he wanted to become a writer after a delusional relation with a girl, and a delusional relation with the mom of this girl, who said that Antonio, being black, was not able to become a writer like he said as a dream. And so Antonio, as a challenge, started to write this book, and he started to publish this book as a self-publisher on Amazon and other independent printer like Uprint. And the success came post after post, because June 6, 2014, this book was the first in the chart of the independent self-published book of Amazon. And this was the time in which I met Antonio, at this time physically, because I thought that this title was great for a movie, but the book needed at least to be published by an official publisher. This is a long story. Maybe I will tell you much more later. But what was really surprising was the way how this young talent writer decided to produce and to promote also the book. So he decided to produce a small video book trailer, independent small video book trailer, to post on Facebook, because at the time was the most important social media between his generation. And I was really captured by this clip.
Le prime voci che ho sentito quando sono nato erano italiane. Il primo vocabolo era in italiano. Ho imparato a scrivere in stampato e poi in corsivo in italiano, a leggere in italiano, ad amare la vita in italiano, ad odiarla nella stessa lingua. In classe quando ero piccolo mi chiedevano, ma ti senti italiano? E io rispondevo, cosa vuol dire? Perché quella domanda non la facevano a qualsiasi altro mio compagno di classe? Perché proprio a me? Io non mi sentivo né italiano e né un negro come molti mi denominavano. Io mi sentivo incompreso, una divisione. Volevo solo essere chiamato Antonio e che mi chiedessero ti va di giocare. Da bambino nei disegni mi ritraevo rosa, come tutti i bambini, non perché rifiutassi le mie diversità, ma all'epoca mi sembrava normale. Tornavo a casa e piangevo in italiano. Una volta una compagna di classe che mi piaceva davvero tanto mi disse se tu fossi bianco saresti più bello. Per me fu un colpo basso, che accusai parecchio. La sera davanti alla televisione, dopo mangiato, prima che mio padre mi mandasse a dormire, lo dissi a mamma e lei sorrise. Disse guardami e dimmi, la mamma com'è, bella o brutta? Risposi senza pensarci 2 volte. La mamma è bellissima. Replicò, ecco, tu mi somigli tantissimo. In quel preciso momento capii che non volevo né essere italiano e né essere più bello. Io volevo semplicemente essere come mia madre, che non era una donna, ma un miracolo. Fuori piove, dentro pure. Passo a prenderti.
Basically, he tried to use this strategy to advertise the book, and he tried to create with another talent, as a young video maker of 16 years old, other video clips, including the next one that is very important, and this clip was really shared by the Black Italian community, but also the community of every young Italians who is a son of immigrants, because this clip deals with the issues of the citizenship.
Fuori piove, dentro pure. Passo a prenderti. Mi chiamano immigrato, ma io da dove sono immigrato se sono nato qui? Io mi sento uno straniero quando sono sul treno e nessuno si siede accanto a me. Quando al bar il classico cliente abituale anziano, nostalgico di Mussolini, commenta dicendo dovrebbero mandarli tutti via. Quando mi dicono ah ma allora sei italiano? E subito dopo mi chiedono se per le vacanze tornerò a visitare il mio paese. Quando mi stringono la mano e si puliscono nei jeans. Quando lei mi dà la mano e la guardano come per dire perché sta con quello. Quando chiamo un'agenzia immobiliare va tutto bene finché mi chiamo Antonio. Poi all'appuntamento sanno solo dirmi mi dispiace, non affittiamo casa agli stranieri, che suona un po' come mi dispiace, ma non affittiamo casa agli alieni. Io non sono un ragazzo di colore, io non sono un carico di panni sporchi da lavare, e a dirla tutta, io non divento rosso quando prendo uno schiaffo. Fuori da casa mia c'è il mondo, e milioni di persone soffrono a causa delle diversità. Persone che smettono di mangiare perché per la società hanno qualche chilo di troppo, perché le pubblicità ci dicono che dobbiamo dimagrire e non smettere di mangiare schifezze se vogliamo vivere di più. A casa mi dicevano sempre, quando punti un dito, te ne tornano indietro 4. Sappi che dipendere dagli altri dipende dal fatto che si ha timore di rimanere soli e che una stella, se vuole, brilla anche dietro le nuvole. Io un po' sono cresciuto, perché se oggi qualcuno mi dovesse dire lo parli bene l'italiano, risponderei anche lei. E se mi chiedessero di tornare al mio paese, risponderei ci sono già.
And of course, maybe you know, maybe you don't. Even I was a couple of years ago to screen a documentary about that. In Italy, if you're born by immigrant parents, you are not automatically citizen when you are born, but you have to wait 18 years to apply for the Italian citizenship. This is the citizenship law in Italy. And so this clip was really touched for me, and it touched a lot of person because it was really well done Milan in 3 minutes was explaining a lot of things about the sense of belonging to a nation would sometimes tend to exclude the sense of identity and of course the issues of the citizenship. And it was connected basically to a book that is about a love story. So it's not a book about racism or politics or whatever. And this was really successful for Antonio because after this huge important strategy on Facebook, basically was able at the end to sign an important contract with Mondadori. And so Fuori piove dentro pure passa a prenderti became officially a book published by the most important publisher in Italy, the company Mondadori. And after that, he released other 3 books in his career. So this is a great achievement for someone who basically has only he studied, I think, only the middle school and then he stopped at the high school. But it was really powerful in doing a lot of things. And he decided to move to Milan to live an experience in a big city. In Milan, in 2015, at the end, he met a young Italian-Tunisian artist that was not very known at the time, but now he became the most important artist in Italy and also is very well known in Europe. I'm talking about Gali. Gali is an Italian-Tunisian artist. His parents are from Tunisia, but Gali is born and raised in Milan. And the meeting with Antonio was really important because Antonio suggested to Gali to follow his ideas about digital marketing. And so they partnered together other Afro-Italian. It was an entire Afro-Italian crew. And basically they were able to release independently. So basically they followed the same strategy, initial strategy of Antonio. They self-publish a music album. Even self-publishing a music album is very hard work because you have to recording the album, print the album, and doing the show, the advertisement, and whatever. But at the same time, they were using the power of YouTube. So basically, at this moment in 2016 in Italy, there was the time of YouTube much more than Facebook to advertise music, in particular if you were not a known artist. And through YouTube, basically, and also through the innovation brought by Spotify, they were able to intercept a great moment of transition also of the digital media, in which basically with a great quality of video, because the video clip of Gali were amazing. They really didn't save money to do this project. Every money that they earned by the income of Antonio, they were reinvested in created amazing video clip that were difficult to see something like that, I think, since a lot of years in Italy. And this helped the success to become, for Gali, an artist much more known, of course, on social media.
Bella, sono uscito dalla melma, da una stalla a una stella, compro una villa alla mamma e poi penserò all'Africa, figlio di una bidella, con papà in una cella, non è per soldi, giuro, wallah. Io sono fuori Brexit, tutto come un backflip. Non sono un politico, io non cerco consensi. Fuck ciò che pensi, terzo occhio dancing. In giro come gypsy, turista in mezzo ai prezzi. Il fine giustifica i mezzi. C'ho stile anche sui mezzi. Ragazzi a pezzi, tutti a pezzi. Torniamo a casa in carro attrezzi. Nina 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 oh, 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 questo flow a chi lo do, oh, oh, con
Ma l'idea nasce da una collaborazione di me e Gali. Gali, quando non era ancora conosciuto, io lo conobbi e gli dissi: guarda, io solo ti posso dare una mano, ti posso dare dei consigli a livello di marketing perché un po' l'ho studiato e vediamo cosa ne esce fuori. Ne è uscito fuori un lavoro da milioni di visualizzazioni, un'azienda che adesso ha 4 dipendenti.
In effect, they open a small company with some employees. They have a lot of success, and after some months, one of the most important phone carrier in Italy, that is Vodafone Italy, asked Tugali to make a commercial to advertise a prepaid plan for young teenagers. And Gali Antonio replied that they were really honored to make a commercial because, of course, are a lot of money, but at the same time they asked to do in their own way. So they didn't want to do the classic commercial if there is an artist and blah blah blah, but they simply want to create a commercial with a song, a lyric, and at the same time a new visual way to represent the Italian teenager. And this, I think, was one of the first advertisement in Italy that was really multi-ethnic, and also the lyrics of the advertisement was important. Was something that they made by joke, but the year after this commercial, the lyrics became an official song and maybe one of the most important song, important for Gali and most viewed also on the social media.
Il tuo telefono forse non prende nell'internet. Finiti a fare freestyle su una zattera in Darsena. Oh, quando mi dicono vai a casa. Oh, rispondo sono già qua. Oh, io ti vivi cara Italia. Oh, sei la mia dolce metà.
So basically, also in this commercial, there is the issues of the citizenship, the topic of the citizenship, in particularly when people say, go to your home, and I answer, I'm just here. But it's also an hymn to Italy because TVB means I love you, Italy. And this became an official also video clip for the album that Gali, second album, published, in this case, not more as independent producer, but with Warner Music Italy, and he signed a millionaire contract.
Mi chiama, rispondo e dico son qua. Mi dice ascolta tua mamma. 1, 2, 3 sono già là. Quando mi dicono vai a casa, rispondo sono già qua. Io ti vivi cara Italia. Sei la mia dolce metà.
So another story that basically I think they have also the same age and they were born in May, but it's just to explain that it's the same generation and with the same background, the same sense of exclusion by the mainstream, because Gali was an artist also before he met Antonio, but the mainstream never noticed his talent. And this talent was noticed by someone else who had the same experience, but was at least in the position to support the growing. And the things never happened because this is news of last year. Netflix Italy announces a series taken by a book of Antonio. The series is called Zero, and of course 2020 was a huge problem with COVID for many film production and TV series production, so there was a delay in the shooting. Officially the series will be released next month in April, so we have to wait at least 1 month and some days to show to see Zero.
Mi chiamo Antonio Di Chele Di Stefano, ho 27 anni e sono uno scrittore. I miei genitori vengono dall'Angola, ma io sono nato vicino a Varese. 4 anni fa ho iniziato a scrivere e raccontare il mondo che mi circondava e non sono più riuscito a smettere. Sto scrivendo una serie per Netflix. Prende spunto dai personaggi e dall'ambientazione del mio ultimo libro Non ho mai avuto la mia età, ma il progetto seriale ha preso un'altra strada rispetto a quella del romanzo. Zero è la storia di un ragazzo speciale, di un ragazzo nero, che ha un superpotere, grazie al quale può conoscere la realtà delle cose, delle relazioni e delle persone, che si nasconde sempre dietro le apparenze. Per me, per un ragazzo nero italiano come Zero, che deve tutto all'Italia, la cosa più bella è che questa sarà la prima serie nella quale i protagonisti saranno dei ragazzi neri italiani. Spero che questo possa aprire una porta a quegli attori, creativi e artisti neri che non hanno ancora avuto un'occasione importante. Spero che questa storia rifletta quella di tanti ragazzi, a prescindere dal loro colore. Ci sarà tanto rap, perché il rap è la lingua della mia generazione. Zero uscirà nel 2020. Spero che vi piaccia.
And hopefully, I hope it will be very important to, actually, it was just really important because in one sense, this idea is bringing other producer, of course, of the mainstream in Italy to partner to have diverse talents inside their production. So, of course, what Antonio made was able to make inside the mainstream industry, it's very important. And of course, it's very important also for many of these young generation, young kids who finally have some role model to follow. When I was young, it was very difficult to have some African descent role model, Italian. There were a lot of entertainer from United States or other country, or famous soccer players, in particular Brazilian or French in the 90s, but was very difficult to find someone that looked like me or looked like you in Italy, in the Italian show business. And of course, not only in the show business, but also in the civic society, in the society. Of course, right now it's totally different. And the idea of tonight was also to show you some of these stories that are really shared, sometimes not only by the Black Italian community. Gali is very well popular and well known by his fan bases. Every kid in Italy is not only Black Italians, and the same is for Antonio and this project, and in particularly the book were written and were read by a wide and diverse audience. So with this, I hope, beautiful end, at least for him. I hope to open the Q&A, and I'll be able to answer to your question.
Oh, I saw a hand. You can use the hand feature. There's a hand feature, or if you want to raise your hand like that, you can do that too. Otherwise, there's a hand feature that you can use if you go. Let's see.
Go ahead. I think it's Will Craig. Go ahead.
Yeah, Will Craig. Yeah.
What was the reaction and climate of the Black community like during the Black Lives Matter movement in the United States, since unfortunately there was more coverage of the events that took place in the United States rather than around the globe?
Oh yeah, great question. I imagine you are connected with other television and you know the situation, because you said a point that is very correct. In the globe, there was a huge coverage about much more the US situation, in particular the tragic event of George Floyd. And many of the protests that were in many places of Europe, also Rome, Milan in Italy, but also Paris, London, they look like they were protesting against the racism in the United States, the majority of the person. In a sense in which they were not aware about the difficulties and races that there are also, in my case, in Italy. So for the average Italian BLM US means going to protest against racism, in particular United States. For the Black community in Italy, BLM in United States was a huge opportunity to bring at the attention of the Italians that this issue is also in Italy. With much more exposure than in the past, because of course also in the past there were sometimes small protests or episodes in which people reacted, but were really not followed by the mainstream media. So in this case, the protests in Rome and Milan were followed with a lot of reporters by Italian media. Even the Italian media tend to give this information that the majority of the people were protesting against the police brutality in the United States, but were not all the people were protesting for this. Many of the Black Italians were there with signs in which there was written "Italy is not innocent too," or "Il razzismo esiste anche qui, racism is always here." So many people have also in Italy the fear that after the momentum of BLM, everything will come or will restore as in the past very quick. So for this reason, but it was a great time because also for the first time in Italy there was, I think, much more than in the past, a lot of protests that trying to connect the present with the colonialism, so the present with the past of Italy, because Italy has been a colonial power, like maybe not so so powerful like United Kingdom and France, but also Italy in the early 90s has colonies in Eastern Africa, in particular Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Somalia. And so there were 2 or 3 episodes this year in which this was reminded to the attention of the Italians. And I think this was also for the atmosphere created in the United States, that from the United States, this atmosphere was, by the way, brought around the globe. Thank you so much, Will.
Other questions? Joseph.
Hi, Joseph.
How you doing, Mr. Kuwornu? Thank you for presenting today. I really enjoyed your talk.
Thank you so much.
I just have a question about the Balotelli generation. Did that, I'd imagine that impacted your work in some way. If so, how was that helpful towards what you were doing with your career?
Yeah, Balotelli, of course. Balotelli, actually, I don't like a lot as a football player, but even is great, but it's not my. But I like his charisma and his behavior. Even many people describe him as arrogant, but I don't think is his case. I think that maybe he suffered a lot when he was a kid, for many reasons. But I like the generation. So Balotelli for me was the way to interact with this generation, especially when I made the documentary about the citizenship. Because of course, being too old and living in United States, I was really not familiar to go to the high school. So I didn't have contact with this generation, a visible contact. So when I really discovered that where a lot of people are 100,000 people of second generation, they have a diverse background, and I discovered in conjunction with the story of Balotelli, I was really, in one sense, proud about how Italy changes and how Italy is multi-ethnic like other countries. So, of course, the phenomenon of Balotelli is very important for, like Antonio described at the beginning, the first clip, for a lot of kids, because also Antonio, that is very young, now he's 28 years old, when he was a kid, he supported the France football team because Italian national team didn't have any African player or Arab player, like, for example, France. And of course, this kind of talk that we are having tonight about Black Italians, you will find a lot of similarity if also the Muslim community that is huge in Italy, is around 1 million of persons, will tell you the same things. They will tell you that they don't have they have difficult to find a role model inside Italy. Even there are a lot of Muslim Italians that they are not represented, or that they are represented with stereotypes. And the same it's also with the Chinese community, and another strong community in which there are a lot of young generation is the community from Bangladesh. Yesterday I was joking, but actually in Rome, if we're talking about racism, there are a lot of episodes that were against people of Bangladesh, not African descent, especially aggression attack during the night. Or thank you so much, Jose.
Thank you.
Other questions? Trying to go through them.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, Dilma, sure.
Hi.
Hi.
My question is, I feel like in the United States, sometimes like racism or colorism can be very regional. So it can almost be concentrated to certain parts, whether it be like more rural parts of the country or things along those lines. Do you see things like that within Italian culture as well, that like racism is almost concentrated in certain areas?
Yeah, no, I don't think it's like United States. Of course, United States are big, and there are at least 3-4 United States. There is the coastal area that are very similar. So maybe city like New York, Los Angeles, in terms of multi-ethnicity relation are more similar. Then there is the South, then there is the Midwest, and then there is rural America and urban America. So it's very, in Italy, we have the same, sometimes difference, even everything is much more smaller. So rural Italy is not isolated like rural America, and even a small town in Italy has a lot of, at least has a theater, an hospital, and not necessary in some places that are small and rural, people tend to be more xenophobic or racist. It depends, because Rome is a capital. Of course, it's much more used to have interracial relation, but at the same time in Rome there are a lot of racist aggression, attack. There are a lot of alt-right movement who are based in Rome. There is the part of Rome we call the périphérie, in France they call banlieue, the peripheric area of the city in which people are much more struggling because for the low income and whatever, there are a lot of aggression and racist attacks. So, and maybe in North Italy that is very well known sometimes to be much more xenophobic, maybe in some small town of North Italy, I interviewed some person who didn't have any particular problem. Even there were the few maybe African descent there, but they were in one sense adopted by small town. We are talking about small town with 5,000 or 6,000 people, no more, but they were really welcome. So I think that basically Italy, plus or less, there is the same situation everywhere.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nina. Hi, Habib. I see you now.
Yeah, thank you for talking about Gali. My students, I'm a big fan, and so we've talked a lot about Gali. And did you? One of the things that we talked about in class recently was when he got upset about the blackface. I don't know if you followed that.
Sure.
Blackface on Tale Quale show, and I showed the students his Instagram post, and so we discussed that a little bit. And some of the class thought, oh, well, I mean, the class, even though it's a small class, it sort of represented both sides. Some students thought that there was no ill intention on the part of the show, And some other students thought, well, maybe, but that was still wrong. So how did you feel about that whole incident?
No, I think that Gali was right. And the idea of the expression of Gali was not, how can I say, he didn't want to bring the same debate of United States. Even he explained what does it mean blackface, especially from United States. But basically, he was saying, I think it's something stupid, not not for the situation of United States, but and I love this question because this was a show in which you have to imitate.
Famous person, a famous singer,
singer that basically just dressing like them and imitate the voice. You are really going closer to the imitation. So I was saying, what will be the reaction of the most of Italian, white Italian, but I think every kind of Italian, if a black singer to imitate a famous white singer, you will paint his face. Why you will say why he paint his face of white? There is no reason he can imitate without doing it. So he was working in this direction, not in the classic American direction that connected blackface with because this was the first, I think was the third or fourth time that they imitate him in this way.
Yeah,
So
I mean, they've done, I think Whitney Houston, they've done Aretha Franklin for sure. I remember, I mean, it looks sort of grotesque, you know, it looks grotesque. The result is grotesque, even though, I don't think the show comes from a position of ignorance rather than racism. You know what I'm saying?
No, I know perfectly. So basically it's the ignorance in which people assume that what they are doing is right without asking to the other person. That it's like it works very always with me in the Italian context, not in America or other places. As you see, I have, as in America, every people has different last names. Sometimes you don't know exactly how to pronounce, and you ask before pronounce the last name of a person. You ask him or her, how can I pronounce your name? So in Italy, it works always, for example, in my case, that they present me, say, we have a Fred Kuwornu, and I said, well, and of course, they always wrong, but they ask, I say, well, after the... So this is like everything about the interrelation between people that maybe they really don't know a lot of each other. If somebody tell you something, it's not because you want to be aggressive or you want to, but you want to report a correct way about how you can interact next time with him or a community. So I saw in Gali much more this kind of approach, and I saw in the approach of the TV show producer, the classic, sometimes Italian approach, that they assume to have an answer for everything that maybe sometimes they don't know. So.
Yeah. Other questions? I don't see, let's see. I don't see any more hands. I want to make sure I don't cut anyone off. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if we don't have any more questions, we'll thank Fred Kuwornu for speaking to us and sharing. By the way, the Zero, it looks really exciting, the Netflix series, and I think I read that it was coming out this year, right? The Netflix series.
Yeah, will come in April, and also there is another series in which there is I didn't have a lot of time tonight, but there is another series that is very nice. It's they call it romantic comedy, basically, as a genre, and it's called Summertime. Summertime. The main protagonist is an Italian a Senegalese girl of 20 years old. Actually, when she made the Summertime, I think she was 18 years. And they will release also the season 2, and it's a romantic love story based on the summertime on the Italian coast, and it's great. So there are 2 or 3 works, and maybe the rumors that Netflix, also Italy, will release a project based on a boxer, an Italian mixed race boxer, very famous in 1925, Leone Iacovacci.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this could be another great. Unfortunately, most of this situation came from streaming platform production that, of course, are doing pretty well in terms of diversity in the globe, but they are not coming from the Italian classic company production or main producer like Rai Channel or or the funds of the government. So
but that's all. When it comes to diversity issues, I think the platforms like Netflix, or those streaming platforms are much further ahead, I think, than Rai is kind of lagging behind. That's kind of the feeling, right? Yeah. So hopefully they'll catch up. So, all right. Virginia, did you want to say something?
No, I just want to thank you, Fred.
Thank you so much.
I do have one comment to make. Apart from all the other really enlightening and important things that have come out of this evening, the one that we didn't quite touch upon, but that did come out of what you said, is the fact that Italy, like every other country in the world, is a pluralistic society. I think we forget that from its origins, like you said, Fred, it's pluralistic, and it's always had diversity, but sometimes that diversity gets obfuscated by this monolithic culture that is presented as Italianness, as Italianità. And so it's wonderful to see presentations like yours and the texts that are being produced that are finally becoming visible and showing that these voices have always existed, and now they're making themselves heard. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me tonight with you. Ciao Habib!
Ciao, come stai? Bene?
Bene.
Dove sei? Sei in New
A
York?
Roma.
A Roma.
Yeah.